Hello friends, welcome to episode 98 of Prof and Dev Play Games. I am the Dev. The Prof can unfortunately not be here tonight. That's what happens when you have a newborn. I know this all too well, so this will be a solo show tonight, and I've got a few things to talk about. Talk about the new 2DS XL. The Prof ended up getting one, and I've been reading a lot of reviews and hope to get one eventually. Some news on Final Fantasy 15 multiplayer, a Shadow of War mobile game, some new stuff about Metroid Amiibo, and some pretty interesting unlocks there. And finally, a bit on Atlas announces some Persona 5 side stories type things, I think. We'll get into that. And then what I've been playing, which is a lot like what I've been playing for the past few weeks, which is Final Fantasy 12, Diablo 3, and some Dead Cells. So with that, we can get into the discussion on, which I guess it's not really a discussion, a monologue? I don't know. If anybody want to discuss about it with me on Twitter, I am at Summerspeak, and the Prof is at Prof Plays Games. Feel free to hit us up anytime. We'd love to chat or discuss if you like what we're talking about, don't like. Love to hear your feedback and opinions. So, the discussion I had set up for tonight was on the new Nintendo 2DS XL, not to be confused with the Nintendo 2DS or the 3DS XL or the new Nintendo 3DS XL. The naming is getting kind of ridiculous overall. But that's what you got. That's what Nintendo's decided to go with. So, this came out on Friday, and I've been listening to some hardware reviews and everything, and it seems like this is, as long as you don't care about the 3D feature, this is a fantastic version of this platform. And at this point, I'm sitting on an original 3DS XL, never got a new system. So I'm very tempted to pick up the new 2DS XL. One, because I would like a system with the C-Stick and the higher RAM and processor, so I can play some of the Virtual Console games on there, and generally just have some better frame rates, especially like when I'm playing Pokemon. You can notice that there's slowdown depending on how many people are in the fights, Pokemon are in the fights. It lags, the frame rates drop, and I know that that's improved quite a bit in the new 2 3DS lines. Beyond that, I mean, the reviews have been pretty awesome on it. It's lighter. It has a snappy response. The build quality is really good, what you'd expect out of Nintendo. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting that this is coming out. I'm pretty sure that this is the final system in this line, kind of like back in the day when they did the Game Boy Advance Micro. It's in Nintendo's history to do kind of these final revisions on their systems. So this is now come out. I think give the system probably at least through 2018. They'll get a few more games. I was looking up. There's like Radiant Historia thing coming out for it. There's a Shin Megami Tensei game coming out for it in 2018. You got Metroid Samus's Return end of this year. Just a few other, there's definitely just a couple big games slotted through to keep this thing going, but its library is already really strong. You've got all the Pokemon games for it. You have, all the Monster Hunters, which there is another Monster Hunter coming to, Monster Hunter Stories. So I still think I would always recommend the system. Overall, its library is strong. It feels good in hands. All the build console quality is good. So it's interesting to see it finally kind of come to a conclusion in this new 2DS model. I think the 3D has always been, an interesting novelty. Isn't really necessary overall. I rarely ever turn it on anymore, and a lot of games I play, like the Pokemon games, don't even allow it to be turned on because they need the processing power. So there you go. Doesn't really matter. Like I said, you turn it on a little bit, and it's like, oh, this is really neat. I'm seeing 3D without glasses, but overall, doesn't really matter. And honestly, it gave me a headache if I did it for too long. So that is out. I think this is a pretty clear sign that they're going to shift to the Switch as their main platform. So, which makes sense. I mean, the Switch is the combination of their handheld and their desktop into one single unit, and they just don't want to suddenly shift the 3DS out of there. I mean, it's such a big part of their revenue and income right now. So, and honestly, it's goodwill to show that you're willing to support something that is finally it's at end of life. So I think it's a good thing. I'm pretty excited. I really want to hear the Prof's experience with how it is going with the new one, his hands-on. I do know he was complaining about the transferring from a current, basically switching accounts from one to 2 or 3DS to a new one is probably the most convoluted and painful thing ever. It's one of the things that's kept me from really considering getting a new system, because I have a couple digital games and I really don't want to lose them. And the way that you can have to do it is, like, you cannot trade in your hardware. You need to have both 3DSs or TSs in front of you, and you have to do a whole transfer process. I read the Nintendo instructions at one point, and it is ridiculous. Nintendo should be past this. It should just be as simple as you have a Nintendo eShop account, which you do to purchase stuff, but that should just keep track of your games. And when you go to a new system, you can say, this is my primary system. Please put my games here. But no, you don't. It's convoluted, like a lot of things Nintendo does when it comes to networking and eShops. So there's that, and I'm curious on how it will go for the Prof. I'm sure there'll be tweets to tell us all about his experience. Beyond that, I think it's really cool that Nintendo's doing this. One last thing, and I think it fits. I think it's $150 is what I saw it on Amazon. So it's, half the price of the Switch. I'm sure GameStops will do trade-ins and stuff. So if you have an older system, I bet you can get it down to like $100. Really good price for a portable thing. The battery life is really good. People were saying that the new one gets anywhere from like 3 to 5 hours, depending on what you're doing with it and how big the game, how much power the game needs to run, and all of the normal stuff. So I don't know. I'm pretty excited for it. I think Nintendo is definitely kind of upping their game with the Switch in this, and really showing that they have a large portfolio of good games and good systems to play it on. So it also fits in with the PS4 and Xbox One gamers, like having what other system do you have? You have a Nintendo system. That tends to be how it goes. So it's pretty good overall. I'm pretty excited, and I'm hoping maybe by the end of this year I'll get one of these. Wait until I really need it, but probably get a Switch first, honestly. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really want to do the upgrade, and I want to play the Super Nintendo games on it. I really like to play some Super Nintendo games on the go. So we will see. And with that, I think we'll head into our news. The first thing I had up was Final Fantasy XV's multiplayer expansion. So this is Sunday, so this coming week there's going to be, if you have the season pass, you can try out the multiplayer mode. I thought it was going to be pretty basic, but this sounds like it's going to be a really radical change. You won't be playing Noctis and his crew. You'll customize your avatar. Like, you'll create your own character. And then, at least for this test, so you'll be there and you'll have a online quest where you can group up with friends and play through the open world-ish area of Final Fantasy 15 with a couple other friends doing quests. This just sounds ridiculous, and I'm curious how it's going to work out. I don't have the season pass. I've kind of strangely forgotten about the game in some ways. Like, I like the first half of it, and the second half really just continued to go downhill. But the one thing I really like the combat, and if they've done combat in a way that each player, there's like different roles the different characters can go in, and you can like work with your friends and do really interesting combinations, I think it could be incredible, because the combat is really fun once you understand it in Final Fantasy 15. It's the real time, but there's a lot of detail to it. That was one thing that I noticed as I played the game more and got more and more familiar with it. A lot of the combat just becomes very second nature, where at the beginning I was kind of struggling, but going through it, you just kind of start learning the rhythm of how you should attack and what should be going on, and it becomes a ton of fun, and I can see that being just incredible with other players, and other non-NPC, actual other players playing beside you. So, the test will be out this week, 3 missions. There's no date on when the final one comes out, so I mean, I would expect if this is kind of like the beta test on it, that bugs might be pretty high, and please give the devs some slack. This networked gaming is not easy. It is a very complicated task, and you're like, well, you should figure it out by now. And yeah, it would be great if that was the case, but it's always a hard thing. I hope they planned from the beginning for this, because shoehorning networked code and systems into a game that was never really designed for it is probably one of the most painful things you will ever do. It will take forever. It's one of those things that you do at the beginning of your project whenever it will take the least amount of work, like localization and serialization, saving, loading. Like, you should just have those in place at the beginning, and so that you just have a system that you can work with, and as you add new things, you fit it to that system. Because trust me, you don't want to retrofit later. That's just a whole mess of worms that will just eat resources and time. So here's to them. Hope they'll get through that. I'm pretty excited to try to see reactions, and maybe if they're good, I'll try it out. It's definitely something I would be in like to try. Like I said, I like the world-ish for the most part. Actually, the open world part was the best part. So just being able to play that type of game with other friends would be great. Speaking of playing games in weird ways, Warner Brother Interactive's put out this trailer for that was Middle-earth Shadow of War. I mean, it uses a lot of the look and stuff out of the AAA version of Shadow of War, but it's a mobile game, a free-to-play mobile game. Talk about cash grab. And at least they've learned that it needs to be free-to-play to make significant money. It looks like a very hack-and-slashy action RPG. I don't expect much out of this, but who knows? It definitely looks like a company that's like, well, there's a lot of money to be made on mobile. How do we cash in on that when this comes out? Like, I would expect to see more and more of this, and especially more and more of free-to-play stuff. Because most of these big publishers tried to push non-free-to-play stuff years ago. That didn't really work, and it's been hard for them to make the transition. EA actually has done a decent job. Outside of the PopCap stuff, they have the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, they have The Sims free-to-play on mobile, they have Madden and FIFA stuff. Like, they've translated these big brands to mobile, and it's done really well for them. Activision really only has Hearthstone, even though did they pick up King? They picked up another big company. I can't remember if it was King or not. But they are getting into it in a serious way. But Hearthstone's been very good for Activision as a whole, at least having some presence there, making some money. Ubisoft has dabbled in it over the years. So Warner Brothers Interactive doing this is probably a good thing. It's a good way to try. I will say that unless you're going to be pushing a lot of money into it, it's going to be so hard for them to get a foothold. So I expect this will do okay for a little bit when the game launches from just word of mouth, but as a long-term, multi-year kind of like free-to-play thing, yeah, I don't expect it to be around. It'll just be another blip in the market. Could be wrong, but that market is so unforgiving. So unless you're pumping money into it to keep yourself propped up in the charts, then you will see nothing. It's kind of sad that it's become that way, but that's just how it gets what people want there. They don't want to spend money. They want free-to-play, and they want free-to-play stuff that shows up in the top 50, either top downloaded or grossing. So that's what we get. And I guess if this is not what we want, then we should, as a group, decide that we're not going to give them money. But I know that that's not going to happen. Enough people are giving all these games money, free-to-play stuff money, so there will always be this rush or try to get up. But oh well, that's what we get. And then we talk about our rush for money. We have Nintendo showing off the functionality for Samus's Return, Metroid Samus Returns, the amiibo that will be working with it, which there's 2 new ones. There's like a crouching Samus in a Varia suit. They called it a squiggly Metroid, so I didn't know this, but there's a Metroid figure next to a canister, but the Metroid itself is kind of squishy, like rubbery, which is creepy, but I'm totally going to get it. And those come in a 2-pack, and then there's some old Smash Metroids, a suited Samus and a fusion Samus, and all of these will have functionality in the 3DS Samus Returns. And most of them are basic, like an energy tank, a missile tank, stuff that you would expect. The little squishy Metroids, squidgy is the word, Metroid, is that it will reveal the locations of Metroids on your map. Cool. That's useful, I'm sure. But after completing the game, you can unlock a new difficulty mode, Fusion, and Samus's suit from Metroid Fusion, the game. So the only way to get that is to have this amiibo. And so some people are getting up in arms that they're just feeling like that is too much to give to functionality to amiibo, because these things actually are really a pain in the ass to find. I recently finally was able to get a Zelda, a Breath of the Wild Zelda to go with my Link, and I got a Wolf Link many weeks ago when I went out to visit the Nintendo store. But I hadn't seen those in store since Breath of the Wild launched. So these things are hard to find, and these will sell out, and they'll be gone, and anyone who wants this fusion mode won't be able to get it. So I can see where people feel like this is crossing a line. There's like full-on new gameplay features that are being locked out because if you can't find this. And I guess it wouldn't necessarily be a problem if you know for a fact that if you wanted it, you could just go buy this amiibo and get it. But like I said, knowing how amiibo are demand and supply and demand is so screwed up sometimes with this that you're never going to find it. Good luck. And if you don't, it's nothing you can do about it. You place some exorbitant eBay prices if you want it. Basically get extorted because you would like to actually play a new difficulty mode. It's kind of crazy, and I do think it's pushing a line that I think Nintendo probably should pull back from. Unless they want to up the supply of amiibo and make sure that people can just get them. Make sure you do reprints, the whole thing. Hopefully they will. But man, I hope I can get one at launch. We'll see if I get this 2-pack. Maybe I'll make another trip to the Nintendo store. That's pretty much the only way I think I can get one. So, crazy. Cross your fingers. These games will be out in, man, I don't even know, end of August maybe? September? This is going to be crazy. Good luck, everyone. Hold your amiibos close. And then a final piece of news came out today. Atlas announced a Persona 5 anime coming out in Japan. I assume will come to the US as well. I had seen some rumors on something like this a few days ago that there's some Persona 5 concert going on in south of Tokyo. And they were going to do some big announcement at it, and people were thinking it was either going to be like a Persona 5 Dancing All Night or Persona 5 Arena, which they did some Persona 4 games like that. So, but it is a Persona 5 the animation, which looks really cool. I am curious if it's just going to tell the story of Persona 5, which is less interesting to me considering I played through the story of Persona 5. I don't know if I really need to see it done as an anime, but for people who haven't played through the game and aren't, it's really worth it. The characters are fantastic. So if this is more up your alley and you just want to watch the story, why not? Seems like a good plan. They already put out, before the game came out, they did a thing called Persona 5 The Animation Daybreakers, which came out in Japan in the fall of last year, and it just kind of was like an epilogue, a prologue to a point of one of the missions in the actual game. It looked cool. It has cool characters. Like, I love Persona 5. I love the style. I love the characters. I love the world. So this is cool to see. I really hope to see some more, something like a Persona 5. I don't think they'd call it Golden, but some expansion to Persona 5, like they did with Persona 4. So, well, this is cool. Still hoping for more later on. I hope that Atlas kind of milks Persona 5 for a little bit and gives us a few more games. It'd be nice. I'd appreciate it. So yeah, I'd be very curious when this will actually start airing. It just says 2018. So we'll see. I'm sure one of the streaming networks like Crunchyroll and stuff will be streaming it when it comes out in Japan at the same time. And with that was kind of the news, kind of breezed through that stuff. When you don't have someone to discuss with, you kind of just go through it. I'm sure I'll get texts and tweets from the prof going, "I can't believe you said that," which is fine. I expect it. So, what have I been playing this week? Well, it's a lot like the games I played last week. We'll start with, I played a little bit more Diablo 3, approaching level 70 with my Necromancer for the season. I have 2 achievements left. Still have 2 achievements to get. All I have to do is get the one where I use Bone Spear to damage 40 enemies within 3 seconds. If I get that one, then I will trigger the other one, which is have all the Necromancer achievements. So close. I'm sitting at 96%. I really like to get that one back to 100% achievements. Trophies, I guess. But it's still a good game. I still enjoy just picking it up, playing it for like half an hour, do a couple riffs, get some levels, get some gear, continue, move on, play other things. Played some more Final Fantasy 12, pushed through the story, a few more bosses in the story, got the next Esper, fought another judge, did that, and then got the next part of where I'm supposed to go, and started making my way up to the next major city, the next major town. It's not really a city, the Fawn Coast, which I remember I really liked when I played this years ago. And it was good to get there, and now I am grinding away at all the hunts that I've kind of neglected and am going back through. And for people who haven't played it, a part of this game is the Hunt Club, and there's boards in specific taverns around the world, and people request that you go find these rare or harder monsters and beat them, and you get loot and items for them. And as you there's 40, I think, through the whole game, and as you do more of them, you get better rewards, and it generally is pretty fun because these hunts are monsters that are just harder, and not just like more hit points. They do have more hit points, but they do different abilities, and it's kind of makes you have to think a little bit more. They're bosses, basically. And I've have like 6 to do that I've kind of neglected, so you can do them anytime. So I'm in a good place where I'm just going back through and trying to complete a bunch of these. It's a ton of fun. I love that game so much. There's so much to see and do, and really this time I'm taking a good time looking at just how big the world is. And yeah, the zones are the hugest thing because of when it was made on the PS2. You can only hold so much in memory. But the fact that you can just walk everywhere, and it makes the world does seem huge. It seems more in line with the older Final Fantasies and like a scale of the world. It's just not done in that like overworld thing cut to battle. I mean, everything, the overworld is just your characters running around. So, kind of a precursor to Final Fantasy 15 in that regard. But yeah, my characters are progressing really well, got some really good items, got my gambits set up really well, where I can just run through places and they just wreck everything. Collecting items to sell, and drops to sell so you can get money, because really you don't get a lot of money from fighting in general. You get money from selling the loot you get off of the monsters you kill, which is a different take than a lot of Final Fantasies. There's a lot of stuff different in this game. So, still loving it, still continuing to work through it. My kids really want to watch me play it. They really like this. I don't know how much they understand the story, but they enjoy like the visuals of the game, and my son always wants to know if I've played it at night, what happened and what's going on with Princess Ash. So it's pretty fun. And then the last one that's kind of filled in when I have like a half an hour, 45 minutes, is Dead Cells. Still going at this game. And what have I done? I've unlocked some new blueprints, so I have new weapons that I'm experimenting with. I made it to I beat 2 more bosses, one of which gave me the teleportation rune, so I can use the little statues on levels now to jump to new parts of levels I've already been to. They're all procedurally generated. It's a very Metroidvania feel to that part, so I can jump to different areas, which have unlocked the ossuary, which is really hard, and the prisoners' cells. Not the prisoner cells. I can't remember the name of it, but I basically went to 2 new places that have different enemies in there and are as hard as hell. But I'm working through it and playing and learning them. And then I played through one of the bosses was a boss on a bridge, which I can consistently get to now. I can't consistently beat him, but then I've made it to the place after, which is a kind of like a docks fishing area on a city. It seems really cool. Again, new enemies you have to learn and figure out. I'm kind of surprised I'm still playing it and like really getting into the game. But I am, and it's overall a really, really good game, and I can't wait for it to be out of early access so I can truly recommend it to everybody, because things are changing still. But the loop is really good. If you die early, whatever, it's really quick to just start playing again. There's a lot of lessons from a design standpoint that I'm learning from it and taking notes on. It's good. It's beautiful. Still amazes me, like, just the pixel art, but the detail in it and the particle effects and smoke, and yeah, there's a good eye. So pretty excited about that game, and I'll probably play that throughout this week. Trying to think of other things. This week I'm going to finally pick up Pyre, which came out this past week, which is Supergiant's new game. They did Bastion and Transistor. I really can't wait to actually play that one. So I've loved their other games. Absolutely love them. When you talk about companies that I admire and look up to and want to make things that where I put the target where I want to make, Supergiant is one of those companies. And everything, I've listened to some of the Pyre soundtrack. It's incredible. The art, love it. The reviews have been fantastic. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to be picking that up in the new month, in August. So pick that one up. And so my games will shift a little bit, but I still plan on playing some Final Fantasy 12 and Diablo 3, and I'm sure Dead Cells. I'm kind of getting into a groove, so kind of need that for a little bit. And then we'll be approaching the end of summer, and I'll probably be getting a Switch sometime around the end of September, beginning of October, would be my thought. So, if I can find one. So, looking forward to that, and I think that's all for tonight. Shortish episode, but not a lot of side banter going on. I'm gonna stop here, and I'm gonna probably tonight go watch some Game of Thrones. God, it's only 7 episodes, so this is episode 3. There's only gonna be 4 more, which is sad, so I'll have to wait another year for the final season. But Rick and Morty starts tonight, and I am super excited about that, because Rick and Morty is one of the best comedies on TV right now. Yeah, you can fight me over it. Don't care. It's incredible. So, good night, everyone. You can reach me at Summerspeak on Twitter, and the Prof can be found at Prof Plays Games on Twitter. Love to hear from you. All right, folks. Good night.